Peace and welcome to Atlantis Build Talk Radio, the premier station for 5% Nation of Gods and Earth social commentary, interviews, musicology, and uncensored discussions about the science of everything in life. This station is a subsidiary of Asia and the Atlantis School for Gifted Youngsters at www.atlantischool.blogspot.com and Asia TV at YouTube/Quanaya. Quanah. Peace and welcome to another edition of Atlantis Build Talk Radio. I'm your host, SaladinAllah, and in today's episode, I wanted to build about the science of supreme mathematics. Recently, I've been seeing a little online chatter about supreme mathematics and their application to life, and I wanted to take a little time to give some clarity on that subject matter. Now, the irony of this is the application of supreme mathematics is evidenced in your way of life. Based upon the contributions that you've made to your family, your community, and the society at large, if you just sit and observe the way that a person lives and the things that they actually do, you can see if they understand these principles of life or not. So I've been seeing some even question, should supreme mathematics and the alphabet be combined? and it kind of reminds me of being in middle school and in high school where, some students, they were remedial, they needed that type of support, and you always seen them in summer school for math and science because they just had difficulty in those areas. Also, people that really were uncomfortable reading in front of the class, their comprehension skills were maybe not as average as their classmates. So I'm sure some of the people who are advocating some of these ideas have struggled academically throughout their career, because it is impossible for a person that really got decent grades in math and in science and in other subjects to even promote or to advocate ideas like this. So when I was learning this culture from my educator or my enlightener, I wasn't given supreme mathematics or the supreme alphabet on a sheet of paper with some basic definitions next to them. I learned both the supreme mathematics and the alphabet in real time because I walked with my enlightener. So for example, I learned that M, or master, is the 13th letter based upon the knowledge and the understanding I gained through experience. I didn't have to be taught to memorize or to remember that M is the 13th letter. I learned its context just through walking with my enlightener because we had a relationship with one another. Although others may have had a different experience, this is what and how I was taught, and it was rare for me once I got knowledge of self to come in contact with another 5%er, including elders, who taught that our supreme mathematics and our alphabet should not be combined. It was a common expression of how we drew up supreme mathematics and why we have a language that consists of our alphabet. So as I learned each of the supreme mathematics and the alphabet, I eventually wrote them down on paper, including some of their combined correspondences, just like I shared with knowledge and understanding being the letter M within the supreme alphabet. So over the years, I've taught and have extensively written on the subject of our cultural curriculum in terms of how it's an integrated system. And that means that our supreme mathematics, our supreme alphabet, and 120 degrees are all different segments that are combined to work as a unified system. They were not meant to be segregated, and here is why. Mathematics is the operating system of the universe. All things are based upon mathematics. A simple way that I describe it to some of my students is I say everything that you see is mathematics in a costume. Now, language is simply a way of communicating the processes of that operating system. An alphabet is an ordered system of 26 letters or sounds. As a sequence or as an order, each of those 26 letters have a numerical value and correspondence to the Arabic numerals 1 to 9 and 0. What does this mean? It means that it doesn't matter if a person wants to acknowledge that the letter C is the third letter or not. Their lack of acknowledgement does not change its sequence in the alphabet. It does not change the order of that letter in an alphabet. It doesn't change its numerical value or its correspondence to the Arabic numerals. If someone were given a single sheet of paper with a single letter on it, whether they know it or not, that letter has a numerical value and place within the context of an ordered system called an alphabet. It came from somewhere. And that letter or symbol or glyph has an origin within some alphabet, and that alphabet has a sequence to it or an ordered system of those letters. Decoding and constructing any language requires an understanding of this. In order to understand Egyptian hieroglyphs and Sumerian cuneiform, a person must understand the sequential order or numerical value and place in the ordered system or its alphabet. Without that information, a person would not be able to understand hieroglyphs or cuneiform. The same is true for children in America who are learning English. As an early childhood educator, I was teaching my preschoolers their letters, the letters' numerical value, their sound, and their sequence in our alphabet. This information enables them to construct words in order to effectively communicate. And I will be a poor teacher in undermining my students' educational achievement if I taught them that there was no corresponding relationship between those letters and numbers. In fact, children who don't grasp this relationship struggle with ELA and have difficulty reading, writing, comprehending, and communicating. Left unchecked, this sets a student like this on a trajectory that negatively affects other subjects that require reading, writing, comprehension, and communicating. And this is what oftentimes leads to some students being labeled with a learning disability to take remedial classes. Now, I say all of this to say some of these adults who are promoting this idea that there is no relationship between numbers and letters were those students that had a learning disability or were taking remedial classes. These were students who had difficulty reading, writing, and comprehending and communicating. You can see it now just as adults that they have challenges in those areas. That didn't happen today or overnight. These were children who were already on a trajectory of having difficulty academically. So one of the things that people may not research or understand is a concept called Gematria, which is spelled Gematria, is a word that comes from the Aramaic and Greek language, but it was popularized by Jewish Kabbalists or people who study the Kabbalah. And it's related to the English geometry, an alphanumeric code where each letter has a numerical value. For example, A equals 1, B equals 2, C equals 3, and etc. in the English language. Words and names that are constructed with these letters also have a value. For example, the name Allah would have a numerical value of 7, which is God, because A equals 1, L is 12, H is 8, and when you combine that entire word, arm, leg, arm, head, you get 34, which reduces to the number 7. The concept actually originates amongst Black classical civilization, or our original people, and the origin of Plato's writings and his study on the subject in ancient Kemet. Now, the same way that Arabic numerals, such as 1 through 9 in cipher, correspond to letters in the alphabet, our supreme mathematics corresponds to the supreme alphabet. So in our language, when we say that understanding is to see, which is actually the third letter in our alphabet, we're showing and proving the mathematical and alphabetical correspondence. When we say that we make knowledge born, which is the number 19, knowledge born, yet a person must make the effort to save themselves, S being self-savior or the 19th letter in the alphabet, we're showing that mathematical and alphabetical correspondence. Those are just a couple of the numerous examples within our culture that show and proves how these segments, numbers, and letters are all combined to work as a unified system. This is not simply about mixing numbers and letters. It's a lot deeper than that. So did Allah, the founder of the 5%, know Jewish Kabbalah or even read the writings of Plato on this subject? It's possible. It's also possible that he never even looked at this stuff before, but regardless if he did or didn't, he developed the successful alphanumeric value system known as supreme mathematics and the supreme alphabet that is unique to the 5% nation. No one else can claim that this is their intellectual property or they came up with this. He is the one that born this system that we use as the way in which we communicate our principles and our values. So again, mathematics is an operating system of the universe, and we deal with equations every day. In mathematics, an equation is a mathematical statement that combines numbers and letters. Let me repeat that. Mathematics consists of equations, and those equations are mathematical statements that combines numbers and letters. The letters A, B, X, Y, and etc. in an equation represents an unknown quantity, and that unknown quantity is a number that is yet to be solved. So for example, if the equation were X plus 6 equals 10, the X is a number that you don't know the value of yet. But when you solve for X, your answer would be X equals 4. Now, what the hell does this have to do with supreme mathematics and supreme alphabet? That's what the crowd who have had difficulty comprehending usually say, right? Now, our life itself is full of equations with unknown qualities, not just quantities, that must be solved. We're striving to solve and find the value of those various different qualities. The supreme alphabet is like an answer key for those life equations because every letter has a value. While some are striving to solve for M, we know that its value in our life equation is master, which is knowledge and understanding. While others are striving to solve and figure out what the letter J means, we understand that it means justice or knowledge added on to the cipher. Every letter in our supreme alphabet represents a quality the exact same way that letters in an algebraic equation represents a quantity. Let me repeat what I just said. Every letter in our supreme alphabet represents a quality the exact same way that letters in algebraic equations represent a quantity. That's living mathematics. So as living mathematics, this is about our cognitive ability, our ability to comprehend reality, our capacity to effectively read, write, and communicate these correspondences. It's all about our ability to make reasonable connections and draw logical conclusions in life equations. As a 5%er, Those reasonable connections and logical conclusions hinge upon understanding how supreme mathematics, the supreme alphabet, and 120 degrees work as a unified system. And this unified system, from our perspective, improves our quality of life, the quality of life of our families, and the quality of life of our communities. You can see it demonstrated in the contributions that we make to this world. Now, if we're just sitting around online all day, and if a person asked us what are we actually doing, it's questionable whether or not we know what these living mathematics are, because it's not demonstrated in our everyday life. A person may sit back and they may not understand something that I'm saying. Some people may not understand what I'm saying in this episode right now. Even if they go back and rewind it and write down some notes or look up some of the words that I'm using, some people may not understand some of the things that I'm sharing. But you can understand what I'm doing. You can see the evidence of my living mathematics in my life through the contributions and through the things that I actually do. That shows you that I have a good system of understanding these concepts. I know what it means to take things from knowledge to born, or to bring things into existence. I've been doing it successfully for quite some time now. So that shows you that I know what I'm talking about. And it also shows you that I don't really need to talk about it. I'm doing it. In order to even create an alphabet, letters have to be established in an order or a sequence. It requires mathematics to order or sequence letters. So mathematics as an operating system predates language. You have to have a numerical system in place in order for you to even construct letters and to sequence or order those letters in an alphabet. Once you're able to successfully do that, now you can order and sequence letters into words. Sometimes it blows my mind how ignorant some adults can be. I'm teaching this to second graders right now, that in order for them to recognize sight words, basic words like and, the, basic sight words, they first have to identify letters and understand the sounds that come along with those letters. A, apple, B, ball, buh, C, cat, cuh. They have to recognize the order of those letters in the sequence, which requires mathematics. It is only then that they're able to construct words. Once they're able to construct words, then you can construct sentences. And it is through the construction of sentences that you develop the comprehension of being able to communicate. So for adults to be that dense, to think that there's no relationship with numbers and letters, that level of ignorance is undermining not only the intelligence, but the academic trajectory of our future. I couldn't imagine telling second graders that there's no relationship in knowing your numbers and letters. Now, some people will sit there and say, well, that's letters and numbers. That's not supreme mathematics and supreme alphabet. What are supreme mathematics and alphabet constructed of? Letters and numbers. When we say the letter G is the seventh letter, that is a correspondence. The correspondence is they both represent God, not only in the supreme mathematics, but also in the supreme alphabet. When we say knowledge culture or the number 14, knowledge of culture corresponds to a nation. Or if you look at knowledge build or destroy, which is the 18th letter, and how it corresponds to rule or ruler. In order for you to rule rightly, justly, and fairly, with a sense of ethics and a moral code, you have to have a ruler. You have to have a tool or an instrument that allows you to draw a straight line, to be perpendicular and upright. That knowledge is a ruler that enables us to properly build and destroy, because that ruler or that knowledge represents the foundation. That foundation represents integrity, fortitude, not just awareness and consciousness, But constitution, if a person can't see the relationship of knowledge, build or destroy, and rule or ruler, and like I just demonstrated, to govern with a sense of righteousness or authority, that ruler or that straight line represents that knowledge or the foundation, which is integrity, fortitude, constitution. If a person's not making those type of correspondences, you can see why they are living the way that they are. Some people look at the way in which I build and they think it's complicated, or I'm talking over somebody's head and I'm not breaking it down simple for the babies. Nah, some people are just simple-minded and they don't want to put the effort to be studious and research anything. I have to be able to break down things in a simplistic way because I'm a real educator. I actually teach children. So I have to have the capacity to comprehend things because I have to break things down for elementary school students. Some of these people have never been in a position like that. A lot of times when I build, I'm showing people the how. I'm explaining to people the function or the process of how these principles work. I mean, some of you would be surprised if you just stopped some of these 5%ers who are regurgitating these phrases like a cipher is a person, place, or thing. If you just stopped them and said, could you explain to me how a cipher is a person, place, or thing? Ask them how. And you would probably be surprised how many of these people have no clue how to explain how a cipher is a person, place, or thing. So, for example, if I'm talking about the universal flag, some people would look at the universal flag and they say, well, I see the sun, moon, and star. Where's the earth? And I explain to people, you're observing the universal flag from the vantage point of view of the earth. You're looking at the sun, the moon, and the stars. Your vantage point of view is the earth. That's where the earth is, in the flag. The correspondence to that is in a knowledge degree in our 1 to 40s, we learn that the earth is the home of our self-Lord and Master. Or in the 37th degree, the understanding God degree, which understanding God, we say that Allah is a God in the earth and in the heavens above. That's correspondence. I don't just say stuff, but that's how some people are. And if you stop them and ask them, if they say, well, how is wisdom symbolic to the woman? A lot of people can't explain that. They just say, cause that's what somebody told me. But yet these are the same people that are ridiculing Christians and Muslims and other religious folks. But they themselves are not critical thinkers. They're just repeating what somebody told them and have never put forth any effort to figure certain things out on their own. And it's unfortunate because these people are passing on this remedial mindset to others. The powers of truth? Okay, explain how. That's what I'm more interested in. I'm not interested in these generic phrases that people are using that I can see it ain't no evidence of it in your life. Explain it so that people could actually comprehend what we're talking about. And here's the thing. People who've had issues with what they think that I'm saying or not saying, I've always invited them publicly to build on these things. Don't just comment on posts that I'm sharing or be jumping in inboxes gossiping about me. Let's go through 120 live in the mathematics and the alphabet. Let's do it live so everyone can see. Because I want everybody to see. Because when I'm finished, people won't want to look no more. And they would be embarrassed to even associate with some of these dudes when I get done with them. When I expose just how ignorant and flawed these folks are. And that is a fact. But people don't want to step up like that. They rather do stuff in behind closed doors and all this other. No. Let's build live and do it. We can go degree for degree. We can go through the math, the alphabet, and let everybody see. And I've always offered people that opportunity, but they don't want to step up and do it. See, our culture is not a belief system. What you believe doesn't hold weight here. It's what you can show and prove and demonstrate through your life. Not even us running our mouths, but where in your life is evidence of what it is that you're running your mouth about. That is the evidence of the true and living. If we're a person who has struggled academically in our life and we may be traumatized from school. You know, I know adults today that are not comfortable reading out loud because they were traumatized growing up through school and had those challenges and made a decision that they are just never going to do that again. So instead of them facing that fear and dealing with that trauma, they find other ways to just avoid confronting the reality that they have poor comprehension skills. And there's nothing wrong with that if you're honest and upfront and you're addressing it. There is something wrong with it when you're projecting that on others and trying to smart shame people because you're ignorant. That's a problem. There are many people who just did not know how to read, that once they got knowledge of self, they learn how to become literate. There's beauty in that. But it's real ugly when you're struggling in those type of areas, but yet you're out here publicly saying stuff that my sixth graders know better not to say. So I want to thank y'all for just taking a moment to listen to this episode. And I will that it was inspiring, it was empowering, and educational, just to give you some more insight into supreme mathematics and the alphabet and why it is important to have the proper aptitude and attitude to learn this way of life.
Peace. When we grew up, Father said it was different. We didn't know what that word means, fear. We'd hurt you. You couldn't even talk to my God. You couldn't even talk to my brother out of the way. God, we didn't play like that, like games. We were so strict to each other. When we say we was our keeper, I couldn't do anything I wanted to do. My brother, if I was going to school, you bet your ass that motherfucker, if I didn't go to school, I couldn't come on the block. And he'll question me till he feels, you still ain't square why you ain't school. It wasn't that you could do what the fuck you want to do. Now niggas can do whatever they want to do. That's why you see it the way it is. Ain't no teaching.